Welcome to the Tune Under pod. We've just about caught our breath after the chaos of the January transfer window, and it looks like there might be some an actual football match on the horizon. We've had a couple of weeks without football, and we've had all the transfer chaos, so we're pretty excited to be able to have an actual football match to talk about. I'm Jack, and with me today, as usual, is a freshly shaven Bobby in Ballarat.
Jack, how you doing?
Good. Have you recovered from the stress of the transfer window yet, Bobby?
Yes, it's been good to have a week away from that. So I'm glad it's over, to be honest. A lot of names were flying around and not many came through of those names mentioned. So it's good to have some normality in a game against a rival in Everton.
Yeah, it was quite stressful towards the end of the transfer window there. I think everyone's glad it's over, at least until the summer, when things should hopefully be a little bit calmer then for us as well. Like, I don't think we'll ever see another transfer window like that for Newcastle. Speaking of stress and chaos, we're really pleased to be able to welcome an Everton fan onto the pod today to help us preview the massive match at St James's Park, which is going to be Wednesday morning, Australia time. So thanks for joining us, Josh. How are you going?
Yeah, I'm going well. Thank you, boys. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So before we get into the football, I just want to ask how come a boy from Bendigo ends up following Liverpool's second most successful football club, Premier League club?
Jeez, you're poking the bear.
I couldn't resist.
Yeah.
What's it? But yeah, what's your experience of supporting Everton as an Australian? How did you get into it?
It's interesting. I think back because there's times where I struggle to even remember how it actually came about. And I always loved the sport. I remember watching the highlights on SBS every Monday as a kid growing up. And Football Manager, played Football Manager, hence why I did no good at school. I never did any homework as a football manager. And I think it might have been early 2000s. I was playing Football Manager as a manager of Everton. And basically made the decision then, I'm going to follow this mob because I need to pick a team. And I love the sport. I watch the highlights every Monday night, but I don't actually have a team. So, and then really, so it was a bit half-hearted to begin with. And then Timmy Cahill arrived on the scene, I think 2004 or thereabouts. And obviously having an Aussie making such a big impact at the club as well really started to cement it for me. So that's how it came about. I think it was Football Manager.
Football Manager's got a lot to answer for there, hasn't it then?
Absolutely.
You could have ended up supporting Millwall, to be fair, though. That's who Tim Cahill played for first, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they did. He went over to Millwall and fortunately for me, I wasn't playing with him on Football Manager.
He was some player, wasn't he, though, for Everton?
Oh, unbelievable. He'd just get the job done. Really passionate. He just left it all on the field, the same as he did with the Socceroos. Like, you just knew that when he went out there, he was going to give it his all. And I'm sure we'll get to this conversation piece a little bit later on, but you see money thrown at players nowadays that lick their lips and get a nice paycheck and don't actually play for the shirt. Timmy was just, as an Australian sort of following an Aussie playing for a club over there, we had more skillful players, Viduka and Kuehl and the like, but just what Timmy gave in terms of for the shirt when he played, whether it was Socceroos, Everton, whoever it was, it's just so easy to support.
And in terms of Everton in Australia, do they have many fans in Australia? Because obviously Liverpool, Man United tend to dominate overseas markets, but how did Everton go in Australia?
Yeah, we do. We've got quite a big community, and it'd be similar to, I guess, how you guys see it from a Newcastle point of view. You've got your community that you have on Twitter that you've never met these blokes, but all of a sudden you keep stumbling across people in Australia that support Everton. So it's surprising. Yeah, we do have quite a big support. Not as big as your big six, your glory hunters that jump on the bandwagon and the like. There's plenty of them, as you mentioned, but it's surprising how many people, especially on social media, that you can interact with that live in Australia that support Everton.
That's how this podcast was born, mate.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I can imagine. Yeah, you guys would be in the same boat. Like, not everyone thinks Newcastle, but for you, I'm sure you see plenty that actually support the club.
Yeah, we did a podcast about how Bobby and the other Australian-based guys ended up following Newcastle, And I think there's something to be said for fans who don't just go and support the teams that are winning everything. It's kind of like a curse, but it's also a blessing, you know, and it's really special thing for clubs to have fans who've just chosen to support clubs that don't win things.
Yeah, I've always been really big on that. And I know, talking AFL, Bobby and I are Tigers supporters, and for years and years and years, there was never any success. So maybe that was a piece of it as well. That I'm used to no glory, so I wanted to go for a club that was thereabouts, was competitive, but yeah, not glory hunter. I'm never big on the glory hunters.
I've been in Australia since 2018, and all I've seen is Richmond Tigers win the flag. So I'm obviously a Lions boy now. So
yeah,
but yeah, they've
never
picked
any
up a
of that,
bit lately.
not for a long time.
Mate, the 35 years prior to 2017 was very Newcastle-esque. I can tell you that, being a Richmond supporter.
Yeah, same with me and the Toffees.
Yes.
Thank God for Dusty Martin.
Yeah,
yes.
Absolutely. Yeah, very much so.
So we're going to talk specifically about the match in part 2 a little bit later. But first, I really just want to empathise with you, Josh, because it turns out that you now support a complete basket case of a football club as well. The way things have been at Everton lately, Bobby and I obviously have vast experience of supporting a football club that's stupid and does crazy things all the time. But This is probably quite a new phenomenon for you and for Everton fans, because for quite a long time they've been pretty stable. They've kind of been top half of the league all the time. So this is probably going to be quite a difficult question, and it's probably got kind of a nuanced answer. But what the hell has happened at Everton over the last few years?
No one direction. So Mashiri came in whenever he came in, heaps of money to throw around. He wants one thing. You had the director of football, Marcel Brands, who's since left the club. He wanted another thing. You have managers that come in, or like whether it be Rafa or Carlo Ancelotti, they bring in their own players. Normally, in an ideal world, you'd probably just go, you've got a director of football. We put everything in your hands. You pick the manager, and you get the players in to suit his style. But you've got people from everywhere pulling in different pieces of puzzles. And this is probably a simplistic way of looking at it, but the way I've sort of dumbed it down is you've got all these players have been brought in, big money, ended up being failures. We can't offload them. We've assigned them to long contracts. Because they're on big money, you can't sell them because people might pay a fee that you're willing to accept, but they're not going to match your wages. And in a lot of cases, the players will just sit on that contract. And so you've got all these players from different managers or different directors of football sitting there that don't fit the mould. And because of the chopping and changing of bad results leading to managerial changes, it's just that's a way I look at it, as just an absolute basket case, but that's my explanation for it. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. And Bill Kenwright's still hanging around there, isn't he, as well? So Mashiri's like the majority shareholder. So he's the kind of the one calling the shots, but Kenwright's been there for years and years. I've seen a bit of unhappiness on social media that he's still there. He's like, and it seems obvious that there's kind of a difference of opinion between those two people when it comes to managerial appointments or signing players. What's Kenwright doing there still?
Don't know. It's funny. You don't know what goes behind the scenes. So I'm really hesitant. I don't really have a really strong opinion on whether Kenwright's a right fit or not. I know there's a lot of people on social media that are dead against him being there. But I've heard whispers that Kenwright only accepted the bid or the takeover from Mashiri under the proviso that he would still be able to do what he does. And then you hear he has a hand in negotiations, and with managerial appointments as well. You have Mashiri wanting someone, Kenwright wanting someone, Marcel Brands when he was there wanting someone else. Yeah, so I don't know what Bill does. I'm sure he does plenty, but I don't know whether it's a good or bad thing. Not quite sure.
And it kind of came to the press attention, and it was quite demonstrative of the problems at Everton recently when Benitez was backed, so kind of at the start of January, and he he sold Lucas Digne for 25 million to Aston Villa. And then 3 days later, and he got Brand sacked as well, reportedly. So Rafa, we know that Rafa's not a person who likes being told what to do or likes working underneath people. So he got Brand sacked, and then he sold Digne because he fell out with him. And then 3 days later, he'd been sacked himself.
The amount of people I've been trying to explain this to over the last couple of days, because my poor young fella, I bought him, his birthday's in November. So I bought him a couple of kits, I think in October. One was a Pickford goalkeeper kit, and the other one, because he loves playing, run around in the backyard being a goalkeeper. Other one was Luca Dean, which he requested. And I gave it to him on Christmas. He never played a game in Everton colours. So I gave him Pickford one for his birthday, Luca Dean for Christmas. And we went for a kickabout yesterday, and he's rocking his Luca Dean away kit, and he goes, why can't we just buy him back?
Yeah.
And I'm just, oh no. So yeah, to your point, where they backed in Rafa, sold Luca Dean, sacked him 2 or 3 days later. Difference of opinion or strategy with Marcel Brand. So Brand stepped away. Rafa got rid of all of our medical staff as well. And so I don't know where we're at in terms of our medical staff now, but basically shipped off a whole host of different people from within the club, or had a hand in doing so. And then, which isn't his fault, because he was making decisions what he thought was the right thing to do. But then the club's allowed him to make all these wholesale changes, and then they've gotten rid of him, which adds to us being a basket case.
Do you think Rafa was? Do you think it was always destined to fail, or do you think, because he had a decent start, and he was obviously, some fans were always going to be against him because of the Liverpool connection, but do you think he was always fighting an uphill battle to make a success of that job?
Potentially, but I think if you win games, I think if you have success on a pitch, people's mindset's going to change. So you're going to have people out there going, ex-Liverpool manager, yeah, we're against it. But if he continued that start to the season and kept getting good results, you didn't hear too much in a way of bad things said about him after about 4 or 5 games. It's just when the injuries hit, the results started to turn. His unwillingness to change his strategy when it wasn't working, and it just snowballed from there. So I think with some people, it was never going to work. But I think with any sort of football club, if irrespective of who you are, if you get the results, no one's going to be barking up that tree.
Yeah, football fans are fickle, aren't they? They'll just the results come and they'll go with it. So I think I don't know what you think about this, Bobby, but I was quite surprised at the way Everton were playing under Benitez, because with Newcastle he had us so well drilled. I think he had the players and we were really strong defensively, and he obviously had a bit of time to build that up, and through the season we're in the Championship. But Everton were just making, when I saw them, they were just, that Watford game was obscene, you know? It was just the most un-Benitez performance that I think I'd ever seen.
Yeah, he was, it was weird at the start watching them play, and it was obviously not his team, and he was inherited players that he sort of didn't want, and so he was playing a certain style that sort of suited them. And then, funny enough, Sharpie saying about the injury crisis that occurred, and that's when all the medical people went, because obviously he wasn't happy. The one thing we know with Rafa is our players were fit and they got better as the year went on. They got fitter, they got stronger, and there was no injuries in the back half of the season. So I wonder if he could see some writing on the wall with that as well. And then he just cleaned out everyone and then got cleaned out himself, and you're left with a mess and no identity, I think. There's still some talented players at Everton, but there's a lot of rebuilding to do at that club, I think.
Yeah, well, we're going to talk a little bit about Frank Lampard in a minute as well. He's been appointed now, but we were talking earlier just about Newcastle have obviously got a lot of money now. They've come into this money. We've had quite a difficult transfer window because of the amount of money we've got, but Everton are probably a good case example of the pitfalls of having a lot of money and trying to spend a lot of money in the transfer market. So what do you think the lessons Josh, that Newcastle can take from the way Everton went about things, because we don't want to be signing Yannick Bolasie for 30 million like Everton did, or we don't want to. There was that summer where Everton signed every creative number 10 attacking midfielder that was on the market. What lessons can Newcastle learn from the mistakes Everton made?
I think I sort of touched on it before, where you need to have someone driving the strategy and everyone on board that strategy, and one particular person driving that strategy. Because to your point, we we're always chasing Gylfi Sigurdsson. We brought in David Klaassen from Ajax, both very similar players. And then Rooney became available, and we bring in Rooney. And I get it, right? So, like, Rooney came from Everton, wanted to come back to the club. Does tick a lot of boxes, and he wasn't by any means a failure. But I really felt for, like, David Klaassen. He's come over with an opportunity, and they've signed Sigurdsson and Rooney, who played in the same position. He was always going to fail. So I look at, if you've got the strategy in place, other things to look at it. Don't the really lengthy contracts with really high salaries. If that doesn't turn out, so like Bolasie was actually playing half decent with us. He's had a good relationship with Lukaku at the time. Then did his ACL and just didn't come back from that. But the issue was massive contract, long contract. We just couldn't. We had to deal with loan spells. It's the same with Cenk Tosun. Paying overs, and I know it's really difficult not to in your situation. Like, but I look at some of the signings you've made. It looks as though you've bought players. It'd be great to go out and get your Robinhos like City did when they first came into money. But it looks as though, from an outsider looking in, you're buying players that should play for the shirt. I don't think it's hard to get a gauge, but a lot of them. I look at it and go, I don't think they're going to sign just purely for the paycheck. They're players that seem to be ones that will have a crack. Sort of going back to what we were talking about Timmy Cahill with before. So yeah, it's easier said than done though. Yeah,
we've had that experience already where clubs have been moving goalposts on transfer fees. Everyone knows that we're backed by Saudi cash, so it's like there's the Newcastle tax that's going to happen. And our transfer window has been particularly difficult because of the league position as well. So we're kind of in a desperate situation. But we have signed kind of Premier League ready players, and then one unknown quantity who's a Brazilian international. So hopefully things are going to go pretty well for us there. But Everton are in kind of financial fair play trouble now, aren't they? And they've also got the stadium being built, so that's probably contributed to things as well. Is that right?
Yeah, spot on. And that's where, so when Rafa came in at the start of the season, hands were tied, had no transfer budget. Was able to get Damari Gray for 1.7 mil, which is an absolute steal. He's been amazing, but like he had to work with Townsend on a free, a couple of others I can't think off the top of my head.
Rondon. Rafa loves Rondon.
Yeah, gosh, Rondon, gee whiz. I note that Cenk Tosun got brought on last night, and Rondon wasn't within sight, so Frank might have made his mind up there. I'm not quite sure, but yeah. So in fairness to him, he didn't have a lot to work with there in terms of being able to sign players. But yeah, financial fair play. That's something that we've just blown out of the water, and things like. This is going back to everyone having their own say on matters and transfer matters. Mashiri, the rumour is that he was the one that brought in Iwobi on deadline day for 28 mil or 30 mil or whatever it was, pounds. And again, he hasn't been great for us. I don't like slagging off players because get copping heat on social media, and that's never good for anyone. But he hasn't been great. But that sort of thing contributes to financial fair play when you don't have one particular person managing it and you've got people just buying players left, right and centre. And that's killed us, like trying to offload James Rodriguez on these massive wages, can't get rid of Cenk Tosun, who just wants to see out his contract. And again, in fairness, he's never going to get a payday like this again.
Can't blame him.
You want to support your family. As much as I hate it, I want him gone. From a financial fair play point of view, that's probably why we had to sell Luka Dean. So as much as I disagree with
Haven't they done something a bit crazy with Dele Alli where they're not actually paying any money until he's played 20 games, which he can't do this season anyway?
Yeah.
So that transfer fee, and then is it 40 million or something, or is that accurate?
Yeah, that's what's been reported. So you're spot on, and I think it's brilliant. For once, to me, we've actually done something really smart. So until he's played 20 games, when he plays 20 games for the club, we have to pay 10 mil. We've only got 18 games left for the season because he's cup tied. So he can't play for the FA Cup. He's cup tied, so maximum he can play 18. So financial fair play for this financial year, it's not going to impact us, apart from a bit of salary, which is fantastic. Then 10 mil, and then there's talk of 40 mil, but after hit, and no one really knows what the benchmarks are, but it could increase to. Hopefully, it's like a Champions League clause or something like that.
That's what Newcastle tried to do with one of the players we were linked with. We tried to put a stipulation in that if we win the Champions League, we have to give them a certain amount of money. And quite fairly, they just laughed in our face. And
I was going to ask if they laughed it off.
So, Frank Lampard then. So there was a bit of a crazy situation which just added to the whole Everton circus last week, where they were linked with the Portuguese manager, and then he went on to Sky Sports News and did some kind of weird interview, defended himself because of the negative fan reaction. So that happened, and then Lampard's come in. So are you pleased with Lampard?
Yeah, I am. I can't remember who I was saying it to. I think my mum. My mum keeps it. So myself and my younger brother, Toffees fans, and Mum jumps on the bandwagon and she goes, "Oh, Everton have got a new manager. Is that good?" She's got no idea, but she takes an interest. It's cute. And I said to her, I don't know. The amount of times I've looked at a managerial appointment with optimism over the last 7 years or 8 years. Hopefully it is. I'm not unhappy with it, but going by, I guess, how he likes to play football and his thought process about tactics and the like, it's going to bring excitement. And I think he hit the nail on the head when he talks about wanting to get the crowd excited and play for the crowd, and crowd want to see hunger and appetite and teams having a crack, which is Goodison to a T. The Everton supporters want our players at least having a crack. If we're not winning games, they'll still cop heat. But if we're not winning games and they're going through the motions, which at times it looked like with Rafa, and that it's just his game style. Whereas if they're pressing hard and really trying to have a crack and results aren't going their way, I'm sure the negativity on Twitter, it can be a cesspool at times, will still be very high. But I think that's what they look for, and that's sort of what Frank tries to bring to the table from what I've seen. One game, but also from his other when he was at Chelsea and the like.
And Big Dunk's still there as well, isn't he? Part of the furniture.
He is. I'm intrigued to see what happens there. So Frank's kept him on the as part of the staff, and it's interesting to me. I think he needs to go elsewhere. Love him, club legend and the like. But you look at it and I just go, are you just going to sit here and be an assistant coach or a coach at Everton your whole career? I think he's 50 years old now. There was talk about him being in contention for the Sunderland job. You guys would love him there. But I think he needs to look at those lower league options potentially. That's just my take on it.
And Everton have got 19 points this season. They're kind of getting dragged into the relegation battle a little bit. Do you think it's a serious possibility? Because I always just look at the team and think they've got far too many good players to go down, but that's a very dangerous thing to think. What do you think? Yeah,
it has to be a possibility. Like, you can't. I look at our squad too and sit there and go, geez, we've got some good players. We shouldn't be in this position, but bad form's bad form. And that's why they had to bite the bullet and make the change with Rafa, because it just wasn't changing. Game after game, it was just mediocre. It was really tough to watch. I saw comments out there going it was more enjoyable to watch Allardyce. And I kind of agreed with it. And we were up in arms when he was caretaking. But yeah, absolutely. Like, you look at it and go, well, if we keep not winning games and struggling to find results, we're quite close. We need to change it around, and hopefully Lampard can help with that.
Bobby, any final kind of questions or thoughts on anything you've heard there before we move on to talk about the match on Wednesday morning?
They're very Newcastle-like, aren't they, Everton? Like, everything said, it's just, bringing back, yeah, we did that. Yep, we did that. So, yeah, it's interesting. I think Rafa wasn't the right fit for them, and we went through that not playing well and watching some very boring football at times under Rafa, but he was getting the wins for us, and we understood the situation with the owner, which he fought on, which sort of Rafa's really good at, isn't he? Getting the fans on side, or he was with us. So, yeah, but it's interesting. I also think, Everton's probably too good to go down, but we beat you guys on Tuesday, and we're 1 point behind, and it's game on. So, yeah, it's interesting. It's going to be an interesting end of the year.
Yeah, we've got to play each other twice as well because of that postponed game around Christmas time. So that's two massive games. Obviously, the first one's coming up Wednesday morning our time. So what we'll do is after this little break, we will get into the match and we'll talk about how we think that might go. We'll see you after this. So there's a huge match coming up at St James's Park on Wednesday morning. It's a 5:45 kickoff Queensland time, I think, 6:45 Melbourne time, which is not actually a bad kickoff time compared to some of the ones we have to watch. Newcastle are 4 points behind Everton now, and will go within 1 point with a win. So really could be dragging Everton into the trouble down there. The teams, as I said before, have to play each other twice because of that postponed game in December. And there's a potential to see up to 9 January signings on the pitch across both teams. I think Newcastle, at least all 5 of our signings will be starting the game. So, Bobby, Newcastle are the home team, so I'm going to come to you first. How do you think Newcastle are going to set up in terms of the players, the tactics and the formation? And what do you think the approach is going to be from Eddie Howe?
Yeah, so I've got all of them starting, all the new recruits. I think Target comes in at left back and Byrne comes in at centre back on the left-hand side. They're needed. They're very much needed. The defence now has all, 3 of their 4 as new players, which at the start of the season we needed some reinforcements there. So Trippier's been outstanding on the right-hand side, and so let's hope Matty Target rediscovers his form from last year for Villa. The interesting one will be in the midfield. I think we'll go 4-3-3, as we have been under Eddie Howe, and I think Bruno will come into it, but I wonder if he'll be in a more advanced position than what the reports were on him. I think he got labelled as a defensive midfielder, but I think in the system that we've got with Shelvey and Joelinton, he might be a more advanced player in that. And Joelinton, the reports are that he has trained, so he will start. If he doesn't, then that might change to Willock, who would come in, and Guimaraes would probably slot back a little bit deeper. But yeah, I think we'd have all the signings in, ready to go, and it'll be interesting how they gel. So it's the case of the unknowns, I think, for us.
Eddie Howe's had, I think, 11 games in charge now, and he's actually played this 4-3-3 formation in the last 9 games. So for the first 2 games, he kind of stuck with the 3 or 5 at the back, however you want to say that. But he does seem kind of quite intent on this 4-3-3 system. Well, I haven't been particularly good in an attacking sense. We've only scored more than 1 goal in one of his games, and that was in that first crazy game against Brentford. So I know that you probably certainly felt that we probably do lack an attacking threat still. We didn't quite get a player over the line. We're after Lingard and a couple of other strikers that we didn't get. I'm hoping that Joe Willock can start showing some of the form that he did at the end of last season, because if he can start scoring goals from midfield again, that's going to be a really big bonus for us. I do think that Lascelles is going to play as well if he's fit instead of Shah. I wouldn't necessarily do that, but I think Eddie Howe will do that. I don't think he wants to drop Lascelles. Hopefully with a bit of sort of better defenders around him, it's going to give him that bit of confidence, and he's not going to keep making schoolboy errors.
Yeah, I think Shah against Leeds was our best player on the pitch. But you might be right to drop the captain. It does a lot in the dressing room, and he might not be up for that. I do think we ended the transfer window with a attacker down. We haven't been able to score more than one goal, and I just don't know if we will be able to again. But I think that game against Brentford, we did play a little bit of a different formation. It was more of a 4-2-3-1. And so, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this goes, the 4-3-3, and how much influence Bruno Guimaraes, or however you say it.
We're just going to call him Bruno, I think.
Yeah, I think Bruno, how much influence he has on that midfield, because that's where it'll be unlocking defences as well. His passing, his ability to drive forward could enable some more attacking threats, because, I mean, the game against Watford at home, the last home game we had one shot on target.
Yeah.
The same system. Bad. It was shocking. So I think the signings were good. I think everyone's really happy, and I think a lot of our fans have sort of forgotten about what's happened. Even the game against Leeds, we got one goal through a keeping error from a free kick from Shelby. So yeah, it's a bit wait and see on this. I don't want to bring the mood down, but I'm not totally confident in our attacking prowess.
I think hopefully having some decent fullbacks as well as Bruno there in the midfield is going to improve the team as a whole, both attacking and defensively. So I know against Man United, we really should have scored more than one goal. So there has been occasions, we should have had a penalty against Liverpool as well. So there kind of has been occasions where we could have potentially scored more, but we've been very reliant on St. Maximin to kind of pull a rabbit out of the hat, which is what he did against Man U and against Watford. So we need someone to start contributing a bit more, and it doesn't matter who that is or how it happens, but we really are desperate for that. Anything in there, Josh, that you particularly worries you or scares you looking at that lineup?
I just love the pessimism around scoring, and because I'm just sitting here going, it's Everton. There's every chance you score 4. So I can match that pessimism. Yeah, look, I'm just really intrigued. Like, to your point about the fullbacks, especially with Wood in there, big boy. So it'll be. Yeah, I can imagine that you get the ball in, but you also play quickly on the counter as well. So I think you're going to be quite dangerous with Fraser and ASM on the counter. So I'm not overly confident. While I still think we should get a result, I'm still, there's a lot of danger there. Even though you guys might not be in great form, you've got players there that can turn it on its head.
And I think we're playing at home. I think the time for excuses for Eddie is over now. It's his team. He got backed in the transfer market quite heavily. So he's just got to attack it, especially at home. It doesn't matter who we come up against. The excuse is that it's not his team anymore and he doesn't have the squad to play the way he wants to play. I think that's over now. So he's got to go all out attack at home, and yeah, let's see where that takes us.
And you might be aware as well, Josh, that Joe Linton has turned into a real superstar for Newcastle over the last few, because he was a bit of a running joke really for the last few years, and he's really turned into this kind of all-action Patrick Vieira clone in midfield there. So we've got the two Brazilians sitting in the midfield, so it could be pretty exciting actually.
Absolutely. No, I was aware of that. I have seen that he's changed his game and he's sitting deeper now, and which I don't know where I was watching a game. I was sitting there going, what's he doing back there? And then did a bit of research and saw he's actually changed the way he plays, but all for the better as well. So it's always fun having a couple of Brazilians in the team.
Yeah. He we made the joke that he found his passport over the last couple of months. He realised he's Brazilian and he's actually really good at football. And there was such a nice video of him walking into the dressing room the other day and meeting Joe Linton, and they had a nice cuddle. It brought a tear to the eye. It was so emotional. It was lovely. One more thing on that, Bobby. Actually, you've got Shelvey as the captain there. I just wonder whether, if Lascelles doesn't play, whether Trippier might get the captain's armband. I think he's already shown in 3 games that he is that captain material for us.
If it was up to me, Trippier would be captain. I'm not too sure. I didn't put the C on Shelvey, and I wouldn't put the C on Shelvey. Absolutely not. But yeah, Trippier is the captain even now. I think he's the one that you even see him in the trading videos and the way he's, sort of coaching and demanding of the players. So, yeah, Trippier, I would put the captain's armband on, and I think I would do it regardless of if Lascelles plays or not, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I think it could maybe destabilise things a little bit, but he is clearly sort of the best, most influential player we've got at the moment. I think, yeah, Lascelles might just have to suck that one up.
Well, he played 3 games and he's our player of the month in his first go at it. So he's different class, and his leadership on the pitch, you can just see it. So hopefully with Matty Targett on the other side, he's got a bit more support, and we can whip some balls into Wood, and ASM and Fraser can get closer, and we can find the back of the net a few more times than once.
Dan Burns 10 meters tall as well, so that'll be good from corners.
Yeah, so I mean, as I said, I'll take a 1-0 win against Everton. I'll take a 1-0 win against most, but hopefully there's a few more goals in us. And yeah, Dan Burn, to see him when we've got corners will be quite good.
He's absolutely massive, isn't he?
Oh, he made Lascelles look like Ryan Fraser, to be honest. It was amazing, the picture. Like, Lascelles our biggest player, and he was just dwarfed by Dan Burn in the pictures. So,
how tall is he?
He's 6'7". 6'7". He's 2 meters something.
He's the same size as Peter Crouch. That's what I was told. Yeah.
Yeah. Geez.
So, but he doesn't play. From what I've heard from a couple of Brighton fans, they've told me that he doesn't play tall. He won't score many headed goals. He's very good with the ball at his feet. So he's sort of that enigma that he's really tall, but he might not score many headed goals. There might be a volley from outside the box. So we'll see what happens.
Talking of tall sportsmen, I was laughing when I arrived in Australia and I was watching the Gold Coast AFL, the Suns play, and they had 2 meter Peter playing as a forward. I was like, that's just the most Australian nickname ever. I love that. Brilliant. Right, so let's have a look at what you think, Josh, the Everton team might be. I just want to say before I look at this, you sent this through to me earlier, and I looked at it, and I just felt terrified immediately.
So did I.
Everton have got a lot of very, very good players.
I don't know how you lose a game with that team in. It's like an all-star. Like, it's what you'd pick on Football Manager, to be honest.
Yeah, back in the day, it's reminded it bring me back. It's the
only thing that did make me feel better was Pickford in goal. But yeah, over to you.
His little arms, you reckon?
Little T-Rex arms, yeah.
That's what we always hear from the Copites. This is a stab in the dark. Like, it's really difficult. I guess a couple of things to take into consideration. We've only seen one starting lineup from Lampard, where we played 3, or as you alluded to before, 5 at the back, however you want to look at it. Don't know if Calvert-Lewin's going to be fit. You've got Van der Beek and Dele Alli now available, where they weren't overnight. Do they start? What sort of formation? Andre Gomez was best on park for us last night. Does he get dropped for one of them? And while he's not defensive, he does normally sit a little bit deeper than what I understand those two, especially Dele Alli does. So would that leave just Allen as our sole defensive midfielder, and would that be enough? I don't know. So it's really hard to know. Michael Keane, he hasn't had a great season, so I've got Holgate in ahead of him, who was quite good overnight against Brentford. But will he get a spot against Keane, who historically always seems to get picked? Do we go 5 at the back and have Keane in there with those with Holgate and Mina. It's bloody tough to know. It's very difficult to pick at the moment. And then you got Anthony Gordon, who's been unreal. He's been out of a youth academy. He's just been a shining light of the season, along with Damari Gray, and he's been fantastic playing as inverted winger overnight on the right-hand side. If Calvert-Lewin isn't picked, if he's not fit, you've got Richarlison up top, and you bring Anthony Gordon into the mix.
What about Townsend? He had quite a good start, didn't he, to the season?
He did. He's a great bench option for mine. And he's worthy of starting, but he's not going to start ahead of Gray or Anthony Gordon, if you would ask me. So just on current form. But like he scored coming on as a sub overnight. So for ages, we've had a reasonable starting 11, and then you look at our bench, and over the last couple of years, the amount of times we've named, I think there's been times we've named 3 goalkeepers on the bench, but there's been multiple times we've named 2. Like we've now suddenly starting to get some depth, which is fantastic. So Townsend's been great. He seemed to do well for you guys as well.
He was good.
Just a workhorse. You know what you're getting from him. Again, going back to your Timmy Cale comment before, like he just works his ass off, and again, Evertonians want to see that. He's dropped in form a little bit from the start of the year, but great to see him on the score sheet overnight.
Yeah, so Everton won 4-1, didn't they, overnight against Brentford in the Cup?
Yeah.
What was what happened in that game then? Was it a really strong performance from what you know?
I missed the first half. I'm so sleep deprived at the moment. I've got an 11-week-old at home and then 2 other kids. And fortunately or unfortunately, the 4-year-old daughter woke up at 3 a.m. So I go, I'll just jump in her bed, get her back to sleep, and watch the second half, which is what I did. So I only really saw the second half. But the pressing, so the willingness and the like to try and win the ball back and putting pressure on the opposition was just completely different to what we were doing under Rafa. So the pressure and just the quick passing, taking risks. So you guys might actually find some opportunities out of that. A lot of passing through the 2 in midfield, being Alan and Andre Gomez overnight. So with Mikolenko and Coleman pushing up as the fullbacks, and there was just a lot of passing, a lot of short passing, taking on risks. From what Lampard said after the game, trying to play some nice football, but also I guess backing in these talented players who potentially have been subject to more of a longer ball strategy under Rafa, and now coming back going, hey, we're backing you in, you're talented players, you're Brazilian international in Alan. Alan played at clubs like Napoli and the like. You had Andre Gomez, Portuguese international, played at Barcelona, Valencia. Blokes like that where you're sitting there going, no, we're going to back you in to be able to actually play football. It was a lot nicer to watch, but it was just manic.
Yeah, thinking about this game could be crazy, couldn't it? I think anything could happen here. So Newcastle's first game under Howe was a 3-3 against Brentford, and looking at these teams and the kind of unknowns, that something like that could happen again here, I think.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Like our defence isn't overly strong. Coleman should have been replaced, and when I say replaced, respectfully, we should have brought in another right back a long time ago. We finally have, but he's a young fella from Rangers who's still finding his feet a bit. And Coleman's still serviceable. Don't get me wrong; he still works his ass off.
How old is Coleman now? He's in his
33,
mid-30s.
maybe.
Yeah.
30, yeah, about 33.
It's been a wonderful play for you. Yeah.
Yeah, £60,000 out of Ireland. Like, he's a fantastic buy. But Mikolenko on the other side, he's been serviceable, but he hasn't shone. He's come out of the Ukrainian league. Yeah, played Champions League and the like, but come from Dynamo Kiev. I'm interested to see how he comes up against Trippier, because and those coming down the right hand side, because I think he's now gets to work with Leighton Baines and Ashley Cole. So if he can't turn into a gun left back, he was never going to. But it'll be really interesting to see how our defence holds up against your lot.
And do you think Van de Beek is a solid signing then? Because obviously he's a really good player, but there must be reasons why Man United other than the fact that they're also a basket case at the moment, why they haven't been playing him or he's barely had a game.
Yeah, I don't know enough about it, to be brutally honest. He is, when he was at Ajax, gun player, absolutely fantastic. But I think he was playing as an attacking midfielder, late runs into the box. And I don't think, from what I understand, when he was at Man U, well, first and foremost, he wasn't getting games. And when he was, it was in a deeper position, which isn't really his game. So I'm assuming that Lampard has brought him in to play to his strengths. Yeah, we needed more players in the midfield, but if anyone's going to sit deeper, it's going to be Gomez and Alan and I don't know, maybe Gabarman, if you guys even know who he is. Yeah, I don't know. It'll be very interesting to see if Van der Beek starts or when he does play, how he actually lines up, because talent's absolutely there.
That Van der Beek Allen partnership is an intriguing one and has massive potential. To be honest, it's the way they both play and their talent and their strengths. It could be something that, gets really unlocks it for you guys, because I rate Van der Beek really highly, and you're right, he's more of an attacking midfielder. And Manchester United obviously didn't see his talent to do that, but I think that relationship there, that partnership there, could be really fruitful for you.
Yeah, hopefully on Wednesday morning, but But I don't know where the two new signings, Van der Beek and Dele Alli, line up in the same starting lineup. I've got them in there because I've got a hunch that they'll both start, but I just don't know. I think it's going to be too attacking minded if they do start, and it'll be interesting to see if they do. Will Van der Beek have to sit back a little bit deeper, because him and Dele Alli both love their late runs into the box. It's almost like we needed Doucouré back to sit deeper and then just play one of them. And that's where I think Gomez potentially could start, and only one of those two new signings will start.
I don't know about you, Bobby, but I'm just more nervous than I was before looking at this Everton team. They've got so many good players.
When I saw this team come through, I went, wow. There's a lot of good players on that list, and obviously they haven't been playing up to their potential. Obviously been playing a style with what we know with Rafa is very defensive, but they've got as Sharpie was saying, they've got the capabilities definitely to play a different style. And once you get their confidence back, I think, sky could be the limit. Let's hope it doesn't click in time for the game coming up. But on paper, it's a very, very good lineup.
If Calvert-Lewin's not fit, you have Richarlison up top with Anthony Gordon coming into a lineup, and if you do have a Van der Beek and Dele Alli in there, I'm expecting manic movement and changing of positions up forward, and especially with your two centre halves being tall, who's the new player? Byrne, isn't it? He's meant to be reasonably mobile. I know by the sounds he likes to play football, but I don't know how mobile he can be at 6'7". Maybe that's a tack that we'll take. Going, well, hang on.
Our defence isn't quick at all, so that's Richarlison could cause some problems there, and Gray.
Yeah. So maybe that's something we might do, as opposed to Calvert-Lewin, who was in great form last season at the start of the year, but in his couple of games back, he hasn't found his feet. So maybe, and he has become injured again, just a slight knock. I don't know what the problem was, but maybe they don't bring him back in and go for the quicker type of setup up front.
Let's have some predictions for the game then. I don't know whether, because of the stakes in this game, such high stakes, whether that could feed into the players a little bit. Newcastle players have been nervous at home, like very noticeably nervous at home as well. I did have down a 1-1 draw because we always seem to draw 1-1. But having had this conversation, I think it could be more like 2-2, because I think there's just going to be crazy attacking going on from both sides. So I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw. Bobby?
Yeah, I was thinking of 1-1 as well coming into it, but I see some more goals in this. I don't know, to be honest. Our players at home have been spooked. I'd be more confident if this was away from home, to be honest. A bit more galvanising. I'll say 2-1 to us. I think we'll the last 10 minutes or so it'll be squeaky bum time, but we'll luckily get through.
Josh, what's your prediction?
I'm leaning. Thankfully, we had the win overnight, so I've got a little bit of optimism back. Because if we ran this catch up last night, I'd probably looking at a 3-0 win to you guys. But I'm probably leaning 2-1 to us. I think that it just depends on how our defence stacks up and holds up. But I think that with the numbers we've got back and the quality up top that we've got, we should be able to get that win, hopefully.
Excellent. Thanks very much. So we will be back next week, probably on Wednesday or Thursday for a review of this game. So please follow us on Twitter at TuneUnderPod, subscribe on YouTube. We're also on Facebook, and our website has got loads of good transfer window content. That's www.tuneunder.com. We've also got our competition running for another few days for Newcastle fans. So you can win a Newcastle shirt with the name and number of one of the new signings. All you have to do is head over to Twitter, like and retweet the pinned tweet, and follow our account. Thanks very much, Bobby.
Thanks, Jack. Thanks, Sharpie. Thanks for coming on, mate.
Yeah, and a special thank you to you, Josh, for coming on.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, boys. Lots of fun.
Great stuff. We'll have you on again, hopefully sometime after we've beaten you.
No comment.
Cheers, everyone. See you soon.
See you guys.